All right, can everyone please take your seats? Everyone, thank you. Okay. All right, everyone. Everyone take your seats. If the candidates can take their seats as well, that'd be great. We need Sue. Sue, can you take your seat, please, up here, and Miles, and join Woody and Fred. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like we have a number of guests here, so I'll introduce myself first. My name is Gary Wagner. I'm the Executive Director of Prime Life Enrichment. And the young lady over by the computer screen there, that's our Assistant Director, Cindy Scambry. And Julie, where's Julie? Somewhere. Oh, there she is, Julie Barnes. She's our Activities Coordinator and several other things as well. If any of you have questions, please feel free to write them out on the slip of paper as we go on, and Julie will try and collect them. Okay. Again, welcome, and welcome to our candidates as well. It's a great honor to have all 4 mayoral candidates here for this town hall meeting. Prime Life is very fortunate to be able to host the meeting. I wanted to go through some house rules, if I may. Just so we can keep this under control. The meeting will start promptly at 12:30. So we did start promptly at 12:30, more or less. And each candidate will have the opportunity to speak without interruption for no more than 5 minutes. And Cindy will be giving the heads up 1-minute warning. So if you see that 1-minute warning go up, you know you've got to make your case very quickly. Cindy will also serve as the Sergeant of Arms. So let's see. I'm also asking everyone to be respectful of everyone's time and interest by not carrying on conversations with those around you, so that we can all hear what the candidates have to say and hear what the questions are later. Speaking of questions have been submitted by the audience already, but we will accept other questions as well. And the questions will be asked by our moderator board member, Melody Cochran. Melody did a great job of moderating the city council town hall meeting, and so no good deed goes unpunished. She gets to do it again today. Every candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. So since this is a citywide town hall, the questions will undoubtedly apply to each of the 4 candidates. Also, Melanie will call on by name the candidates, so that we don't have too many people trying to answer at the same time. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to respond to the question. And at that point, 2 minutes, if you see Cindy go like this, that means you're done. The meeting will end no later than 2:30. The city council town hall ended a little after 2, but people are more than welcome to spend some time afterwards in informal conversations. However, we ask that everyone please leave by 3 o'clock unless you want to help with the cleanup. Again, thank you for your interest and for your cooperation. And if you'd like to submit a question, please write it down on the slip of paper and send it. Well, Julie will be looking for anyone. If you have one, just raise your hand with it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Melody Cochran, our moderator, who will get the ball rolling for us.
And while Melody's on her way to the microphone, I wanted to let everyone know that we are streaming this live on YouTube. The link has been sent out to all of our friends and supporters, but if you don't have it and wanted to look at it later, let me know. But I also want to let you know that this is a webcam, so especially those of you who are sitting around here, it is likely to pick up your voices, so no trash talking. But also, please try to keep your voices down so that the video of the candidates comes out clearly without a lot of chatter in the background. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know how I could possibly forget this. It's probably because it's so exciting and made me nervous. But I just found out not too long ago that 3 representatives, 3 city council members who also happen to be mayoral candidates have presented or will be presenting to the city council on Monday what would you call it? Not petition, but a request to help fund Prime Life enrichment. So our thanks as always to all of our public servants and the help that they give to us. So with that, now I will turn it over to Mel.
Thank you, Gary. Can y'all hear me? Okay, great. We're going to get started. I think we're going to start with Sue, and if each candidate can take about 5 minutes, talk a little bit about what you stand for, and then after we do that, we'll get on to the questions that you all have brought in.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. So I say good morning, good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the staff for putting this on and allowing all of us to get our messages out to you and get to interact with you a little bit. For those of you I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Sue Finkham. I am a longtime Carmel resident, maybe not as long as some of you here. My journey in Carmel started in 2005 when I was hired to be the marketing director to open, at the time, Clarion North Medical Center. A couple years later, my son was 5, getting ready to go into kindergarten, and we had fallen in love with the community, is interacting with it the previous couple of years, and wanted to move here and get our child in Carmel schools. He's now a junior at Indiana University. If that lost me some votes because you're Purdue grads, my husband is a Purdue grad, so we are bilateral or bi-directional, probably is a better way to say that, family. But again, it's been great getting to know this community, being a part of it. After having moved here and really being involved in the community with the hospital position that I had, the opportunity came to run for council in 2010. And I took that opportunity because I wanted to continue to develop a community that would offer tremendous value to my son, and so he could thrive, growing up here. And it's been a real honor to be a part of that, being a part of that. Seeing the growth and seeing the accolades and stuff the community's been able to get, and still offer one of the lowest tax rates in the state of Indiana. I think the second lowest for those who have full-time fire departments. So it's been a tremendous honor to be able to provide that value, and I look forward to continuing that opportunity as your next mayor. Because fiscal responsibility, community engagement, and crime prevention are the 3 things that are most important to me. My undergrad is in sports medicine. My master's is in management, and I've leveraged that for the last 30 years to help businesses grow and help advocate for people. Whether it be in administration, in a human resources capacity, or marketing, that's been my professional background. I currently run my own marketing agency, and we deal with primarily nonprofits and healthcare entities. We have a niche in organ donation and transplantation. So that's my day job, if you will. I have about 12 people, 8 full-timers and 4 contractors that work in my company, and kind of taking some time away to talk to you and do this campaign. It's been a real challenge, but it's been fun. I'm also, as we said, a community leader. All the different opportunities we get to do in serving on city council. Also been involved in initiating Carmel Porch Fest. Worked with Jeff Worrell, who I know is here somewhere, to initiate Let's Talk Carmel, which is a local website that has all sorts of answers about city council and the city happenings. And also I'm a mom, as I mentioned. So I think those 3 things together give me a unique perspective on what Carmel should look like in the future. We mentioned crime prevention, and I think that's, of all the things we talk about, is the most important. What I've heard from residents, and you may have a question on this, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm proud to have gotten the FOP, which is a Fraternal Order of Police endorsement, because they believe in the leadership I can bring to help make sure this community stays safe. And that's important because we can bring all the artwork, the transportation, the parks, the businesses, but if you don't feel safe in your own community, we have a cultural problem. And we have a problem that people aren't going to want to move here or stay here. So crime prevention, again, is of utmost importance to me. So I want to pass the mic off. We'll have plenty of time for questions and answers later, but I'll pass the mic off to the next victim. You want to say? Are you going right down the aisle? Okay, right, here you go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Glynn. Thank you for being here. Just trying to do this like Sue did. I'm a 20-year Carmel resident. I've been married most of those years. I've been married for 20 plus years. Got a daughter named Jada that just graduated from Carmel High School. We've been heavily involved with the arts and theater community here in Carmel. That's a passion that we have because I think it's done so much for our daughter, that was the outlet that she found growing up. I started getting active in politics back when I think that's when I met Woody, when I was the Mike Pence County coordinator. From that job, I started meeting a lot of volunteers, a lot of different grassroots people. And then a few years later, a county council position came up and I was asked to run for that by more of the grassroots end of the party. And when I ran for that, it was hard work because, you know, the powers that be, certain ones had a different candidate and we were able to outwork that person and get elected. When I first got that body, it was more of a body that was a sleepy body that was used to just kind of rubber stamping what the commissioners had. We were able to change that culture and maybe have the commissioners respect our role and we respect theirs. We were able to have a AAA bond rating. We kept the lowest tax rate in the state. Domestic violence shelter, something that I wanted. And at the end, we were able to push and get the land purchase for that. Brought in an audit from KPMG to make sure your tax money was being used efficiently. And we found several efficiencies that we could change there on the way out the door. Those are some things I was very proud of. I ran for this position in 2019, as most of you probably know. And at that point, it was a little bit different when I went into it. It was that nobody was challenging what I thought needed change. I didn't think that this person was leading our city the direction that I wanted it to go, or a lot of other residents needed to go. And I thought that we needed an opposing voice. That was the only reason I got into it in 19. As I got into a few months of that, I realized that I think I could do this job. And that's when I started to get to know people and my message was resonating with people. And that meant a lot to me. That's what drove me to do this again. And I think that we need some differing types of policies set forward. And those policies include responsible development. I don't think that we need to keep pushing for density that's in our community now. I think that we have enough of that. Responsible development also includes bringing in, preserving green space and bringing in development when it comes in to have gathering spaces, which adds vibrancy to our community. Fiscal responsibility. We brought in a AAA bond rating to the county government. That was something we worked very hard to do. That means that it costs less for us to borrow on your behalf. We need to take Carmel from the AAA, the AA to the AAA. Responsible development, fiscal responsibility is something that we're talking about, and preserving our neighborhoods, stopping the encroachment on our neighborhoods when it comes to apartments and mixed-use development. Those are some things I'm running on, and I didn't prepare much for this, but I try to make it informal and looking forward to answering all your questions. It's nice to meet all of you.
Kevin Woody Ryder. I've been in town 40 years. I moved here when I was 21 and opened my first restaurant business. I've spent 40 years in customer service in this town. I know some of you have been around long enough to remember Parcel Pizza. I did that when I was 21. It was a college project that turned into a business. After I sold that, I did some consulting. I used my accounting background, and eventually I decided I wanted to open my own restaurant. And I always had an interest in customer service. And the way I look at it, city council and mayor is just the next level of customer service, if you truly look at it in the way it should be. And I ran for office 16 years ago. I'm finishing up my 16th year. During that time of my 16 years, 12 of those years, I served double duty on the Plan Commission, and 1 year I was on the Carmel Redevelopment Commission. It's going to be very important for the transition from a 28-year leader to our next leader to have some continuity and somebody who really knows the bread and butter of how this city runs. And I don't think anybody, I'm going to honor a former mayor that we have here, Mayor Jane Ryman. She was speaking to me, and I believe in her endorsement of me, she said, Kevin, I don't think anybody has as much experience as you do that's ever run for mayor of Carmel. I take that as a great compliment from Jane Ryman. And also just recently getting the mayor's endorsement, he sees that we need the leadership and the knowledge of the city that I have. Fire department also gave us their endorsement. I was pleased to have that. Over the years of my 16 years, both police and fire chiefs, when they needed something, I'm one of the calls they make. Because my belief is the safer we are, the safer they are, the safer we are. Anything they need to get home and see their family, that night, every night they come to work, that's important to me. And, it's involvement in the community. We just recently, we've been involved with Prime Life since 2020. My wife and I, when they closed our restaurants, we formed a charity called Feeding Neighbors. They just put it out, my VP just put out yesterday, we've done over 21,000 meals since 2020 in our community, Hamilton and Marion. We help a lot down at Brookside School also. And here we do 120 meals twice a month since 2020. It's a pleasure to be involved in the community. I've been at Northview Church for 23 years. Cherish Center, which is a child advocacy center, I'm one of their founding board members. We take care of kids who are molested and abused. That's a passion of mine. And the Humane Society, I'm on their advisory board. We just had the honor, if you get the chance, there's a lot of senior dogs. My wife and I just adopted one from there. It's the best. We've always had 3 dogs. It's the best experience we've ever had with one of our animals. So I think it's important. This town gave me my life since I was 21 for the last 40 years. This is my way of giving back. And I hope you give me the honor of being your next mayor. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Miles Nelson. I'm also running for mayor of Carmel. Gary, thank you so much for setting this up. Cindy, Julie, thank you so much. This is a pleasure to be in front of all of you, and it's a pleasure to be up here and share some space for the first time all together. So again, I'm Miles. I'm running for mayor. Just a little bit about me. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a community volunteer, I'm a business owner, and I am on city council, proudly serving the people of the West District. And it has been an honor to do that for the last 3.5 years. My wife, Carolina, and I moved here about 20 years ago. And the reason why I decided to run in 2019 was because I wanted to show my kids that one person willing to get involved and roll up their sleeves could actually make a difference within their community. My daughter and I also created a group called the Carmel Cleanup Crew, where we had a mission to pick up trash from the streets in Carmel. You may have noticed there's not a lot of trash on the streets of Carmel. So we expanded our mission to plant trees with a goal to plant 10,000 trees over the next 10 years in Carmel. And I'm proud to say that my daughter and I have distributed and planted over 2,700 trees, with another 1,000 coming within the next week. So Carmel has been wonderful for my family, for my wife and I. We've raised 2 beautiful kids here who have attended school here. We've started businesses here and built careers. We've made a lot of friends. This is definitely our forever home, like so many of you. I'm running for mayor because I love this city, and I'm extraordinarily passionate about the people who live here. I want to ensure that Carmel continues to move forward. Under Mayor Brainert's leadership and his vision, Carmel has gone from a small place during the 80s of less than 20,000 people. It now has close to 107,000 people. The city has changed a lot. I want to make sure that we continue moving Carmel forward. These are a few things that I'm concerned with and I want to have an impact on. First, I want to keep Carmel an inclusive city. So regardless of your skin color, your religious beliefs, or your age, that you will continue to find Carmel as a welcoming city that includes you, that respects you, that listens to you, and most importantly, hears you. I also Want to make sure that we take care of our world-class amenities, our parks, our award-winning parks, our multi-use paths, all the things that we take advantage of and enjoy to make this a walkable, bikeable city. I want to make sure that we invest and take care of those without raising our taxes.
Thank you so much. Your 5 minutes is up.
That was 5 minutes? Well, thank you so much. Sorry.
Thank you very much. All four of you did a great job. I've always thought politicians could talk a lot longer than that. But,
I had another 30 minutes, I guess.
I do want to recognize, I think I was remiss, we have two other staff people here that I want to recognize. One is Lori Raffo. Is she still out there? Oh, there you are, Lori. Thank you. And Lori is our transportation coordinator, and that's one of the most important services that we provide for seniors. And then also, I think Betsy is here somewhere. Oh, there she is, Betsy. You got to stand up so people can see you. She is our guru when it comes to fitness, both our land fitness and our aquatics fitness program. She's a true asset for all the seniors who come in here to help us stay fit. And I don't think I've left anybody out unless Nikki's here or.
She's answering phone.
Oh, she's out, okay. We have one other person who is our assistant with the transportation program. And somebody has to still be at the steering wheel of this place, so she's it. So thank you very much, again, the four of you, and for the attention that you've given. Now we're going to turn it over to Melody, who's going to be asking questions. And again, 2 minutes is the amount of time that you have to respond. And each one of you will be given the opportunity to answer the questions. And Melody will be the one who says, we'll start with whoever we start with. Okay.
Thank you, Gary. Can y'all hear me? Okay, Miles, you just hold on to that microphone and then we'll start with you. So as Gary said, I'll ask the question and each candidate has 2 minutes to answer or talk about this subject. So the first one we have today is, what is your position on diversity, equity, and inclusion as it applies to the city government?
I'll go much faster this time. So as an executive owning a company, and my background is in business ownership, starting a number of different companies with a number of different employees. I also do recruiting for companies now. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. Just like any business, and being a Jew married to a Latina, it is important that, I'm kind of sensitive to these issues. And so I think it's great for a city government of over 600 employees to understand each other, to work better with each other. And I think a strong DEI program just makes everybody better teammates working towards the common goal.
This is one of those issues that in politics gets bounced around. Government isn't the best at fixing this. The best example to fix diversity issues is by leading by example. At my church, I met with other groups, and I recently went to the Interfaith Alliance dinner to honor Jerry Zaire. And what I learned there, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, what your skin color is, we all got along. Everybody had something to say. The more the different groups communicate, the better it is. But the way to fix issues is by example and doing it between each other. Government, there's very little government can do policy-wise, in my opinion, to fix it if you don't fix our character. So that's where it starts. It starts with character and looking in the mirror.
This has been a question that's been asked in, I think, every forum we've done, every article, and my answer is the same every time. I've been around this community and knocked on thousands of doors, and we got a very diverse community, people from every racial background, every religious background, every ethnicity, and I've never heard one of them complain about living here. Everyone that I've talked to feels very at home here, and when they've dealt with our city employees, they've all had a good experience. And those people that I've talked to in several of, they're not the ones pushing these issues. This issue's become very politicized. So the people that it's supposed to benefit aren't the ones pushing it. I believe that we got a very good city hall. I think that we ought to hire based on merit. And when we see these types of people coming in from different backgrounds, we welcome them like we do now and hire based on merit. And I think that our city employees dealing with these people have all different people in our community have had very good experiences with them and positive experiences with them. So we continue to hire based on merit. And I feel that we will have a city government that reflects our community as far as ethnic makeup and diversity.
Thank you. As a mayor, as the executive of the city, you do set the tone. And the first thing I would do is make sure that our cities understand, our city employees clear, and our community at large clearly understands the values that the city government stands for. One of those that we represent everybody. We are welcoming to all. I don't know if you read, I shared, I think in some article that there's 120 different languages spoken in the homes of kids who go to Carmel schools. That's an incredibly diverse community, an international community that we already have. And our city employees have done a fantastic job engaging all of them. But there are things we could do to better engage all these different folks with different backgrounds. Our website is one language. And we can do a better job as an example, right? Making things to make sure that people can engage with the community they serve in. If they want a fence permit, if they want access to some city service, we gotta make sure that we have services available to serve them. However, I would not go so far as to replace the open position that is a DEI manager at the city. I don't believe we need to do that. We just set it in our values and make sure we understand that we're a city for all and that every employee recognizes that. And our employees are top-notch, world-class employees. They've delivered a phenomenal city over the years, and they'll continue to do that with the right leadership.
Thank you, Sue. Go ahead and just hang on to the microphone, and then when you're finished with the next question, just pass it on. Okay, this next question, please address whether you believe the city of Carmel should use the ESG framework, environmental social governance framework, in any business it carries out directly or indirectly.
So I do not believe that that is a goal that we should chase, especially it's mostly referred to in financial, like our city's investments. I believe our city's investments, we have the responsibility to provide the maximum return, and people have their own choices on where they can put their money as far as city employees are concerned, what funds they want to invest in. But we need to give them a wide variety of opportunities to invest in they can make their own choices, but we're not providing those choices to them based on an ESG framework. We have a fiduciary responsibility, and I believe that's where it should stay.
Fiduciary duty should come first. The ESG has become a national movement, and you've got people from a national perspective, especially at a place like New York City, that are trying to control what companies do all across America. So this is, in some instances, this ESG has been very concerning. I know our treasurer downtown is trying to deal with that, and this has been addressed at the State House this past session. We need to make sure that we're doing our fiduciary duty by our city and investing the money accordingly to serve taxpayers.
They both just said the same thing two ways. I'm not sure I can do a third way on that. The answer is no, we would not. Fiscal responsibility would come first.
I think this might be where we all agree on something. I agree with that as well. I think that our responsibility is to the community, to the residents who live here, making sure that we honor your wishes and we respect your tax dollars and spend our money with purpose and as wisely as possible.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, an important one to all of us here. Since Mayor Brainerd designed Carmel for an art district, our Prime Life Center received no funds from Carmel for our senior citizens. Carmel is one of the wealthiest cities in the state of Indiana and does not support their seniors. Prime Life picks up seniors and gets them to doctor's appointments, kidney dialysis. What other organization in Carmel will do this? These are just a few things Prime Life provides for our citizens. As mayor, what will you do?
Thank you very much. That is a great question. As mayor, I will make sure that Prime Life has the funding necessary to continue to take care of its senior citizens. There's a very high quality of life here. This is a phenomenal city to raise a family, to build a career. It should also be a phenomenal city to retire and be able to live the same high quality of life. So I would do everything I can to have an impact that's positive for Prime Life.
Without our seniors, we wouldn't be here, and I'm getting closer to that, but. I already have, I think, a great involvement with Prime Life. The way I look at it, the same with the arts. I think it needs to be a partnership. And in partnerships, sometimes you hand money, sometimes you help with fundraising, you create partnerships in doing the fundraising, you give incentive. I've thought about the same thing with the arts. Give people more incentive to raise money and make matching dollars. The partnership is the key. Between my administration and Prime Life, just like I have now, we would continue to have a partnership.
Spent 8 years in county government. Once a year, we have to go over not-for-profits that come to county government for requests for dollars. The biggest dollar amount that we gave out every year was to Prime Life. It was $250,000 a year for 7 of the 8 years that I was there. On the 8th year, we did scale that back to $225,000 because they were still getting $75,000 more than Prevail, which is our domestic violence group, which works directly with our sheriff's department, which is a direct county government service. I would think that we could still partner up in the city the same way to make sure that Prime Life is taken care of like I did on the county government level, and partnerships are important as far as matching dollars to make sure that there's a fundraising mechanism in place that we can at least report to the taxpayers that effort is being made.
Thank you. Like the others said, I would absolutely dedicate dollars to support Prime Life. This has been a tremendous learning experience for me, understanding all the amazing services that are offered here. And I've talked with several of you about what it does for you from a vitality standpoint and a health standpoint, supporting your taxes, support getting your health insurance figured out, because that myriad mess is crazy. And so I love the services that are offered here. But I want to go beyond that. I want to make sure that we have services in place that support you when you're not just here, right? Our sidewalks are a mess in a bunch of our neighborhoods, and they're hard to replace, expensive to replace. I championed an ordinance where it offered a sidewalk matching grant program that the council advanced. That's not enough. I want to see dollars come back from our TIF district as soon as possible so the city can take over maintenance of sidewalks. Because if you're pushing a stroller or you're pushing a wheelchair or a walker, it's hard to walk on broken sidewalk. And that makes you feel like you might have to be in home to be safe. I also want to have a neighborhood liaison person in City Hall. So if you have questions, you have a face and a phone number to call so you can get those questions answered. And some of those questions might be about how you age in your home, right? What access do you have to other vendors and stuff that you can actually maybe add rails and other things to make your home safer. But more than that, I also want to create and advance our volunteer program, because you all offer a lifetime of experience in a variety of different areas. And we should have volunteer activities and things that you can plug into so that you feel still valued and still a part of this amazing community. So whether it be helping in the hospitality aspect, whether it be helping people do taxes, whether it's helping people in the customer service, or whatever it might be, you offer, again, a lifetime experience, and we should be able to find ways to plug in. So it's beyond just Prime Life, it's all the ways that you interact with this community.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, the next question has to do with our new library. Are you planning on doing anything about the new library's disdain for the handicapped? And what this is referring to is the handicap entrance at the new library is not ideal. If Charles is here, if you want to talk a little bit about it, it's a really long ramp. It's hard to manage for seniors or those who are handicapped.
I don't know if Charles is here. I want to make a comment, but I can address the fact this is the first time I'm hearing that was a problem. So I think we can do an audit. I was at a meet and greet here 2 weeks ago, and a couple came up to me. One of the couple was in a wheelchair, and said there's several spots around town that it's very hard for, she was the one in the wheelchair, very hard for her to navigate when she gets out of the car with her husband's help. There's maybe handicap spots there, but no curb cuts. So we have an ADA coordinator here in the city of Carmel. We should be able to do an audit of all of our handicap spaces and handicap access points and make sure we identify things. We do have a disability awareness committee that's very active. And so we should have those folks involved in that conversation as well, put a plan together then that we can make physical changes to the environment or signage or whatever it needs.
One of the interesting things about any office you run for is people asking you questions about and something that has nothing to do with your office. But this one is unique because we appoint members to the board. And what we can do in this instance is lean on our board members that we appoint. I have one appointment on there from county council. That's still my appointment. And I've already spoken to her about this because this was mentioned last week. We have city, I believe, appoints people to library board as well. So we go to our library board members and our board member goes to that director and says, hey, listen, this is not adequate. That would be the most genuine answer you will get on that because the city is not going to be able to go into the library's property to do anything about that. They can lean on that. They can try to influence them. But I think that we need to get on our board members about that because this is the second time I'm hearing about it. I heard about that when I was in the library last week. So that would be my solution to that is to sit down with our board members and say, hey, we need some action on this. So.
I'm with Counselor Finkham. This is the first time I've heard about it too, because I know if either one of us had heard about it, we would have already made a phone call. And I will tell you, we have 4 city councilors here, including President Mayoral. I'm guessing some phone calls will get made after this. Any issues like this that come up should be dealt with. And Fred Glenn also made a comment, we don't have any direct say. They are a separate taxing entity. But again, pressure and the partnership with the library is good. It won't take a lot of pressure. They listen to us. We work. It's a great relationship between the two. So we'll get something worked out.
Thank you. I did hear about this because I watched the video of the council candidates last time, and it is concerning. And that's why the mayor is supposed to also be the visionary, but as mayor, I will also be chief of concern. And by maintaining open lines of communication, hearing the concerns from residents so that we can address these types of issues, whenever there's some place that makes a resident of Carmel feel unsafe, it needs to be addressed.
Thank you. We have 4 wonderful questions from our members regarding apartments and development. So some of the questions are, is there a formula to determine how many apartments are needed? Another question has to do with, is there a percentage of vacant apartments in Carmel? Do we know a percentage? Is anyone keeping track of all the apartments and the volume? And why are they being built so close to the roads? And with all of the new development, are we going to need some more water treatment facilities?
Is that 8 minutes total or just?
Just do your best.
Well, let's start with the last piece of this, and it's a great bunch of questions. The wastewater plant, one of the things that I'm excited that council did, that we made a $10 million investment that upgraded some important upgrades to the wastewater plant, that we also had a methane flare that was just simply lighting off the methane gas, creating, eliminating one problem, but creating another problem. That $10 million will pump that methane gas underground to be used in storage, or held in storage to be used to power the wastewater plant. It's a very forward-thinking policy that has a great return on investment. It's great for the environment and great for people. In terms of apartments, there aren't a lot of vacant apartments. We have a major demand and a lack of supply of housing options. And so apartments are a housing option, not always the best housing option, but that is one of the reasons why we have housing options like that, because there is such a demand, and every time one goes up, it's full.
I'll also start with the wastewater. Yes, we do have the capacity. John Duffy, the head of our utilities, does an amazing job. The quality that you get from our utilities, we also, when we expanded our wastewater, we take care of the sewage coming from Westfield. So we're actually making money on another city. And your bills, wastewater, are 35 to 50% less than anybody around us. So it's run very well, and we are staying ahead of our capacity. Apartments, that's come up a lot in this election. And I will tell you, as far as too close to the road, that was the vision of our current administration. We always will look, it'll depend on the area. In downtown Carmel, you know, the apartments that are built, they're full. A lot of times they have a waiting list. And it's shocking, a lot of the people moving into those apartments are like people sitting in this room. They're downsizing. They didn't want to sell their house and buy another house. That is a decent amount of population going into our new apartments. It does give us a diversity that we have. One thing though, is at my time on Plan Commission, I will tell you, before anybody would bring me an apartment project, I would do my research and I would tell them, if you don't own, maintain, and hold your projects, and I'll research your company, I'm not even having a conversation. Those aren't the companies we want. The companies that we have building in Carmel, they hold, they maintain, because they want their rents to go up. So it's not going to be the decline in apartments, you know, the ones that we have built from this point forward.
One of the goals of the current administration that I heard him mention was, we got 100,000 people here, they want 150,000. And that is a goal of population density, extreme population density. Population density works in some areas. I've been to places where I like staying where I'm at in a hotel, getting out, walking, but I don't think that's what a lot of us moved here for. I like the downtown core. I like going down there. And a lot of the people that are in those apartments, when I was down there and talked to the people that were doing the rentals, are people that moved in there after their house was bought, because we had a topsy-turvy type housing market where people were getting called on the phone and offering exorbitant money for their property cash. And it was a huge thing that hit Carmel and Fishers pretty hard. So you had a lot of rentals coming up and a lot of that type of thing because of the market over the past few years. We should measure that in how many apartments we have per 1,000 people. And if you look at what we have now, I think we have enough of that. That's one issue. Another issue is some of these apartments are encroaching on people's neighborhoods. So you have a neighborhood where people have lived there for 20, 30 years. There's a little space in the back, and they come and build something there. The neighbors come in there. They talk till they're blue in the face. The council, the current mayor, doesn't really do them any good because they build it there anyways. This kind of thing needs to stop. We need to preserve green space, and the development that we bring in needs to have gathering spaces for vibrancy in the community, and we have enough population density. Now, I invite you, if you want population density, if that's what you're for, Mass Ave is right there in Indianapolis. That's why we choose different communities, and I don't think that's what the majority of us chose to live in Carmel for.
So a couple things as a takeaway here is, first of all, we didn't have enough housing options for all the people, all the industries that were bringing people here. We had a housing shortage in the rental space. So many of us bought our first house. I bought my first house at 25. The folks leaving college now and are not buying houses that early. Student loans are much, much higher. The desire to have a much more active lifestyle, which is interestingly what baby boomers have in common with Gen Z right now, is they want to spend their money on fun things, not things like houses. So they're waiting to buy their houses till later. So we need a place to house them. Their parents don't want them at home. So they need apartments. So we built a lot of apartments here to house workers, tech workers, knowledge workers that our businesses wanted here. Our businesses are important because they provide about 41% of our budget, our city budget, through property taxes. However, we do need a housing study to evaluate how much stock we have and all the different types of houses we have. For a while, we had a big overabundance in 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath houses with a partial basement that sat on half-acre lots. So we have to make sure we have enough type of houses for all the different types of people that want to work here. So one of the first things I would do is do a housing study and really evaluate these data to make decisions on that. However, I do agree that we brought on a lot of apartments here very quickly. We'd pause, take a look at our housing stock before we start approving tons more. And we have a water master plan in the works too, to evaluate how much water we need for the next 40 years. So that is in place for the person that asked about water.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put 3 questions together. Why so many traffic circles? Are there more planned? The same with sculptures. And then, really to the point, are you willing to commit a % of the city budget for seniors in prime life?
That's a lot in one question. I go back to Fred's 8 minutes. Exactly. I'm gonna address this a little bit different way and let the fellows down the row answer maybe some of the specifics. The last question and this one go to community engagement. Because there's clearly some questions here about people maybe don't want as much art or want more art, don't want as many roundabouts or want more roundabouts, don't want as many apartments or think they're okay. So one of the very first things I would do when elected mayor is to do a comprehensive citywide survey, because I want to know what you think. We've never done that. The mayor's never wanted to invest in that. And it's not one where we do survey 400 people and then say that's gonna be representative of the community. It'd be one that we open it up for a month or so, let it be open and get all of your feedback. Take that back, analyze the data, come up with a strategic plan that you would endorse, right? You have input in, be able to endorse it. We would then put that out there with goals, with timelines, and our progress against it so you can see how we're doing. But if we don't tap into what you want in your community, we're never gonna win. This is your community. Many of you have been here many, many years. And we need to make sure we're getting your feedback and engaging you all along the way. And that's the critical difference in my leadership against the current administration. Because I want to hear from you. Jim's had an amazing vision for 28 years. It's been Jim's vision. It's not been our vision. And that's how I want to head. So that will give us direction on, do we do an arts commission, which I would like to do, but I'd like to hear from you about. I think our roundabouts have been effective for preventing injury and injury and accidents. I would like to hear from you about that. I would like to hear from you about density and apartments and green space and parks and all of that. I want your opinion so that we together can create a plan that we all get to celebrate when we win with it.
The thing is about art, it's subjective. My favorite type of art is abstract art. I love it. And I talked to a woman at a museum that gave me a tour of the Chicago Art Institute, and she told me it's because you're the type of person that doesn't want to accept what the artist does. You look at that piece of art and want to make it your own and make it what you want it to be. So, but if I served in this room, a lot of you might not like abstract art as much as I do. And that's the thing about putting that type of stuff on all these roundabouts is, community engagement is important, but what if you get 70% of the people there, or 60% in one survey, and they want that, but the 30 or the 40% of the people don't like it? That's just not the way to handle things. I think that what we could have done on a lot of those roundabouts is put bushes on there, flowers, and that type of nature, and that type of thing gives us a sense of well-being. People feel good when they're around that type of stuff. That's the first thing. The roundabouts, I looked at a study on this a few years back, and if there's medium level traffic, so the roundabouts, they really do help. But if there's heavy amounts of traffic, they don't help. So, but I think that it's a little bit too late on that. I think we set a record for roundabouts. So they are what they are. I could prefer maybe count one of my opponents here to tell me. I don't know what the maintenance costs in the roundabouts are. Maybe when he can address that, he answers the question, but they might be a little more than they were for traffic stops. I will tell you though, with a lot of people, these roundabouts are very, very popular. When I go door to door, you could go to someone that hates every piece of spending. When the roundabout comes up, they're like, that, I kind of like it. So it is what it is. That's how they're probably here to stay. So.
Well, number one, we're running out of places to put roundabouts. The key to roundabouts from this point forward will be safety. Perfect example, there's one out on the west side along 116th Street that's going to get done this summer. It's a tease into 116th Street, and we have a lot of T-bone accidents there with injury. That's where a roundabout, that is what we're going to look at. That will be a roundabout. As far as art pieces, I'm big on landscaping and roundabouts too, but we have the art pieces. We've created that. Maybe we pick another direction now. Our art is a key to this community. It's been something that we've put our arms around. I will not be buying any large, expensive art pieces for roundabouts, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate what's there. Art is in the eye of the beholder. Half people like something, half people don't. It's why art has value. And as far as whether we would continue to spend anymore. I want to see different things. I was in Charlotte and I saw they had a poem contest, and then the people won, and they had artists come forward, local artists, and they did murals. And there's now a map to go all over Charlotte to find these things. That's an inexpensive, local art, fun way to do things. But again, and I'm agreeing with Councilor Finkham on this, communication is the key. Another thing that people ask me, what are you going to do different than the current mayor? And I said, I'm going to improve communication. People fear what they don't know. Give them the information. Even if we don't agree, you have the information. I want people involved. I told a couple people that keep up with our development. I'm going to get you involved before the project gets filed. The earlier people are involved, the more input they have, and the more buy-in you get from the community.
Thank you. So it's the last question that I think is critical. That's a people question. The other issues on roundabouts and art, those are things that they're already there. And so if there are going to be additional roundabouts, it's going to be because a traffic study was done, there's a safety issue, but it's the last issue. Will the city dedicate money from the budget to Prime Life? And the answer to that is yes. As mayor, I will make sure that we continue to support our senior citizens. It's the fastest growing portion of the population in the city of Carmel. There's a lot of value in what you have to offer. You should continue to be able to live a very high quality of life like everyone else. So as mayor, I promise you that.
Okay, you may have hit on this one a little bit earlier. With skyrocketing assessments this year, do you have a plan to reduce property taxes? If something isn't done, seniors and others will be forced to move out of Carmel, where some have been for so many years.
A major concern. One of the concerns that I've heard when I've knocked on over 8,000 doors and meeting with residents is there is a concern that there'll be a loss of generational diversity. And how that could happen is people who built homes in the 70s, 80s, and 90s for $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, they've increased in value. Their appraisals have increased, which is great. But the problem is when you sell that house today, you can't downsize to a more economical house. They just don't exist. The homes here are too expensive. What do? That's the challenge. I think what we need to focus on is creating more housing options that are affordable for our senior citizens so they can continue to live here and benefit all of the community.
I had to write this down because it just happened last night, so I don't have it committed to memory. But average statewide assessed value went up 20%. In Carmel, it's around 14%. And the state legislature, who I'm sure you might make some phone calls after I tell you this, last night killed what was in Bill 1499, which would have they would have lowered the property tax caps. It would have increased state income tax deductions and limited tax levy for local, how much the levy could go up in 1 year. They cut all three of those things out of the bill. So as your mayor, I would lobby strongly for property tax relief. I've had an idea and I asked recently, and we can't do it locally, it has to be done statewide. I would like to see something, if you've lived in your home beyond, I don't have a year, 30 years, 35 years, that your assessed value would freeze. So that has to be done by the state. The mayor of Carmel cannot do that. So I'm not promising you I'll do it. I'm saying ideas like that need to happen. When you've invested in your community that long, you deserve a reward for that. And we need to find a way to make that happen.
I'll try to address this with how we can impact it. First 4 years on that, when I was in government, I referred to that position. We had a very aggressive fiscal conservative majority on there. And one of the things that we did was pay down debt. We were moving cash over the debt column because the debt service was too high. Every year, what ended up happening was every year our rate started decreasing. So if you look at from 2015 when I first got on there, in around 4 years, that rate that we were collecting from you decreased because we lightened the debt load. That applies to any local government. If you start paying down the debt, then you get less of a levy. The thing is, though, by the time that 4 years was up, people started coming to us, we have to fund this stuff. So it was almost like the way it's set up, we were getting penalized for being fiscally responsible because every year we're trying to do more with less and lower your rate. That's one way that the property taxes can be impacted from us when it comes to when these assessments come in. We can't control the assessments. We can't control what's done. That's dominated by the state. Indiana is a very heavy state dominated where they really dominate what local governments do in a lot of ways. So, but we can pay that down to get the rate down. And that's one place that I've been and experienced and had that type of impact. We've had instances in Carmel where there were apartments and that type of thing where they wanted to say, well, we can't maintain these anymore. We need to put senior housing in there. That never happened. So I agree with Miles Nelson on that. And I'm not sure what you mentioned as well. I do think that we need to have more housing options for seniors. We've had all these different apartments. It's time we start focusing on every generation in our community, not just one for these apartments. So.
The number one way the mayor can impact the tax rate is to spend wisely. So we can lobby the state legislature for things that we think are important, and we should. Many of those decisions are made by rural legislators, from farming communities all around the country. They need to understand what our issues are here. The number one way we can help bring our tax rate down is to spend wisely. So as your mayor, the first thing I would do is strip the budget back down to its bare bones and build it back up, only spending money on those things that are essential. Water, sewer, police, fire, right? Those important things. And then make sure we're spending every dime we can on the things that are needed in our community, which, as we've discussed already, are senior services and housing investment, right? So we're making sure that our development plan also matches what our community needs are. We know we need more housing for seniors. We know we need more housing, for sale housing, not apartments for rent, in the center core, because people want more of the walkable area. Because if we also provide that, they can maybe drop down from 2 cars household to 1 car household as they get older and don't have to work, commute every day. So we need to make sure we spend wisely, build the budget back up with essential items, really evaluate our investment in the non-essential items, so we can, again, return value back to you, the taxpayer, because these are your dollars that fill the budget. They're not our dollars, right? I think people forget that, where the dollars come from. So that's the first thing I would do, again, so that we can do a housing study, and that what we need, and then put a plan together and enact it, so.
Okay, I think that Sue and Woody have hit on this a little bit, but if y'all could talk a little bit more in detail. Predators, thieves, and drug dealers coming to Carmel, from Marion County or from wherever, what will you do to keep crime out of Carmel? Please don't give a general answer.
Well, first and foremost, on my website, suefinkham.com, there's a priorities across the top. There's a public safety plan there. Very detailed 2-page plan. You can see what I'm going to do from a police standpoint and a fire standpoint. We released that back in February, I believe. There's also a fiscal plan there, and there's some in the back table too. But from a specific crime prevention, I remember I said this earlier, this is one of my top 3 priorities, crime prevention. We would evaluate using data, because we have tons of data in the police world, right? They've done a great job. We have national benchmarks for other communities, FBI statistics, but take a deep dive on what that data says. But what we know is we have, without any kind of data, we have crime creeping up from Indianapolis on the 96th Street corridor, all the vertical roads, right, the north to south roads, College, Michigan Avenue, and all the other tributaries in there. We have crime creeping up, and it's scary, and it goes against our investment in our homes. And so first and foremost, I would do is I would better understand what our benchmark numbers are, but also invest in more police officers on the streets. We have great investigators, but it doesn't help us to investigate something after it's already occurred. Also make sure we're doing education with families so they understand what they can do to protect their homes themselves, from alarms, things, practices. You'd be amazed at how many people have stuff stolen out of unlocked cars in their driveway overnight. It's really amazing. So making sure that awareness is out there as well. But also the first decision that your mayor has to do is put in place their police chief and their fire chief. We have a temporary and interim police chief. And I'm gonna do the absolute best job. I can find the absolute best leader, because we have to develop a culture in that community we already have a strong culture in the police department, a culture that wants to serve you, prevent crime, because that is, again, such an important decision from day one to appoint that police chief. And so we look externally and internally, hopefully finding our rock star internally to serve you.
If you sit down with our sheriff, he pulls all these statistics. Any given day, 60% of our crime, 60 to 70% of the crime that happens in Carmel, in Fishers, will come from Indianapolis. Another percentage of it will come from Madison County as well. When we expanded the jail up there, that was a big project we did to make room for people that are breaking in your car so they don't come back and do it for at least a temporary. Majority of the people that were in our jail were not from Hamilton County when we served that. I recently sat down with the police chief and he made a very interesting observation when it comes to that. When we had more patrols per 1,000 residents, less people wanted to come in. That's one of the things we would need to do is increase patrols. Right now, there has been positions that have been approved by council, but they can't get them filled. We need to aggressively fill those police positions and increase the amount of police officers we have and increase patrols. And this gentleman who's a former Carmel police chief, he laid this out for me. So if you increase patrols and you get the right officers on the street, that crime will decrease, because as they start coming up here, they'll see that presence and they won't want to come up here anymore.
Proactive, proactive, proactive. My favorite story, I've known Jim Barlow, our current chief, for 25, 30 years. And my favorite story that he ever told when he ran the Hamilton County Drug Task Force, he was making a drug deal with a drug dealer from Indianapolis. And he said, "I will meet you anywhere but Carmel." We're going to keep that going. And the way you do that is you stay ahead of it. We already are. These things are happening. We're an accredited police department. That's an amazing thing to achieve nationally. Constantly look for the next best thing. Don't wait. Don't wait until you need it. Get it ahead of time. And that's what we will do. We will continue to constantly be looking for the next best first, because we want to be the first to have things in Hamilton County. If it's something that makes us safer, right now, if you drive from Marion County to Hamilton County or to Carmel, your license plate's going to get read. If there's a warrant, if you're known for committing crimes, boom, we immediately know where you are, and it's in every police car in Carmel. So that's already in place. So we will continue to do things like that and find how to make this the safest community that it can be. And we'll keep it that way.
Thank you. Well, Carmel is a safe community, and as mayor, I will continue to keep it as one of the safest communities in the country. Hiring a police chief will be priority number one. The police chief's responsibility will be to attract and retain top talent, ensuring that we have enough policemen on the streets, ensuring that we have enough patrols to keep the rest of us safe, focusing on the areas that are the hot spots. There are a few of those areas. Michigan Road is one of those areas. 96th Street to 106th Street happens to be just south of my funeral home. That is a major hot spot. Reimagining some of these areas and how we can maybe attract more local foot traffic. Sometimes the best way to keep crime down is to have more people walking the sidewalks, walking dogs, spending time outside. This takes a village, but making sure that the experts who fight crime are the ones, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, are the ones who are coming up with the options and explaining it to the rest of us.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put two questions together that have to do with green space. What will you do to enhance and add green space in park areas in the Central District area? The area where the old Monon Center was previously is now vacant and is an ideal location to add green space in a park area. But then also, would you and how would you budget for replanting trees removed during all the rebuilding of Carmel?
Well, that's an absolute passion of mine. Planting trees is something that I wake up to and think about. Ensuring that we have a walkable city that has lots of green spaces where we can take a break from the congestion is critical to everyone's health, regardless of your age. I think that we are going to continue to plant trees where they are taken down, continue to encourage people to plant more trees in their yards, focus more of our budget on planting trees and enhancing the green spaces, keeping these areas cool, keeping these areas full of trees and making sure that they're easy to get to so that we can all enjoy them.
Green space is a little similar to roundabouts. We're running out of room.
Yeah.
We have gone from 96 acres of parks to over 1,100 acres that we control. Our Parks Department is one of the best in the country. Michael Klitzing is unmatched. We will continue to do that the best we can. We're building Bear Creek Park up in Northwest Carmel right now. Anytime we can get our hands on something, but this land is getting more and more expensive. As far as trees and redevelopment, I looked at a picture like 60, 70 years ago in aerial compared to now. We plant a lot of trees in this community. It's very important to us. We have money in 4 or 5 budgets in our city that plant trees. We will continue to do that. We will always plant more than we ever take down. It's important to us. But we also have people who own land and they have property rights. So you have to weigh between green space and property rights. So if we own land, we would want that to be looked at also. So, but as far as our parks and green space, I couldn't have more confidence in where we are.
I do agree that private property rights do have to be respected, absolutely. But I would like to look at what the development has been up until now. I was talking to a couple over in West Carmel. They got children that live in the apartments on Old Meridian and Main Street. They asked, why is there so much concrete there? Why is there only a pool? Why is there no gathering spaces? You go into other communities, when they build these apartments, it's not all concrete. They got gathering spaces, they got green space, which adds more vibrancy to the community because people come out of those apartments and they gather and you start seeing people out, and that just adds a better feeling, more vibrancy to the community. If you look at 116th and Rangeline Road, I don't think there's gonna be, I don't know, I mean, they really packed that in there. It's right up to the curb. We could have had an absolutely different approach to that development. Now, I can't say I can change what's already developed, but going forward, we can make sure that when development comes in, it has more gathering spaces. They make sure to put more green spaces in. And this isn't unique. This is done in communities across the country. So it's not like you can't force that issue or have that issue be a standard in your community. And it has been a standard in some instances, but it's been changed for certain types of development. So going forward, what I would do is make sure that the development that comes in, there's more of those types of gathering spaces to add vibrancy to the community, and we preserve some of the green space we have. And the green space that's close to neighborhoods, we need to respect the neighborhoods and the people that have been there for that long and not try to run them over with this stuff.
So there's 3 things I would do. First of all, identify parcels that we could potentially purchase and preserve that have appropriate green space. That takes dollars. So I mentioned earlier that I want to make sure that we bring dollars back from the CRC from expiring TIF districts, which I think the next one that expires is 2028. So we can get those dollars back into the city budget, not the CRC budget, and use them to everyone's advantage. That's the first thing I would do. So when I would do the housing study, we'd be looking at all land use and identifying properties to retain. Also, we are continuing to invest in parks. We have to have a long-term parks plan that's funded. It's not funded right now, and that's a terrible tragedy. We need to make sure that is fully funded. So the Bear Creek Park that is under development, I also got 63 acres donated to be parkland in Northeast Carmel. That can be fully developed, and that will be a passive park versus an active park that we have in other areas. And the third thing I would do is stop the CRC's rating of park funds to use to build downtown development. They're taking park resource or park fees, impact fees, and using them to create gathering spaces, like on the corner of Rangeline and Main, where it's going to be basically almost all cement. That's a misuse of those dollars and needs to be going back to parks and protected. So those are the 2 things I would do.
Thank you. This question has to do with recycling. If you can share your thoughts on recycling. And then also, would it be possible to bring back the recycling program for the non-Republic trash users?
So I'm a supporter of recycling. We do it in our home. We invest in a business that's solar. So and I say we, mean my husband and I have a business that makes solar HVAC units. So I'm a supporter. I'm a pragmatic, what I call a pragmatic environmentalist. As long as it can produce a return on investment, I personally support it. For the city, our recycling program has been wildly successful. And what we say for most people that recycle is they put much more in the recycling bins than they do. Used to be the trash is full and the recycling was empty. Now it's like the recycling is almost full and the trash is almost empty when the trucks come around and pick up stuff every week. So I do support that program because our residents use it like crazy. As far as bringing back recycling, I think what it means is probably not going to a citywide contract for recycling. We absolutely take a look at that. I know in the past, I think that was a decision was made before I was on council. It was so much cheaper for people with non-Republic, contracts that it made more sense for the council at the time to change that. So certainly something we could look at if that's something that was the will of the people in the community.
Currently recycling my house, I think pretty sure we have Republic. I didn't know there was another option. For a while back, council made the decision, council mayor made the decision. I thought there was 2 raised trash service was here and then went to Republic. I didn't really notice it that much. So I'm not going to sit there and give a real big opinion on that decision either way. But I know that the city, from what I've been told by many people, does a very good job when it comes to recycling. I recycle in my house. Hopefully, that is an option for every one of our citizens.
Economy of scale. The reason we went down to, because I was part of the council, the reason we went to one instead of allowing raised and Republic, it was economy of scale. We got a better price. And our recycling is unbelievably successful. I will say my wife and I put our trash out every other week now. I recycle a lot more than I ever did before. So I don't see us, you always look at anything. But as long as economy of scale works, I wouldn't see a second provider coming back.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Those are kind of tenets in my family. We also recycle a lot in our house, and I love seeing all of my neighbors doing the same thing. It's a service that's really important, and I know for a fact that in Carmel, the recycling program has been very, very successful. I want to keep that going and encourage more.
Okay. What is your position on TIFs, tax incremental financing?
Well, TIFs have been used to help Carmel grow. However, I think that Carmel is a very desirable place for developers now. I don't know if we should be using TIF to attract new developments. I think that the city has proven that on its own merits, it can do some, can attract new developments and new corporations. And, I don't know if we need to help them out anymore.
This is an example of what I meant by communication. We've used a lot of good tools to grow our city. TIF is one of them. The best example is City Center. That was an old, when I had a pizza place across the street, that was an old abandoned Kroger strip center. I think the pool hall was the last thing to go. I'm dating myself. And it was paying almost nothing in property taxes. By using TIF there, we raised our property taxes incrementally and got City Center. Without using TIF, you build the infrastructure. You're not handing cash to a developer, but we need to give the public the information, tell them exactly how TIF works. And that's not hard to do. You invite people to the schools and you put on a presentation, and anybody who wants the information gets the information. But without TIF, we would not have the city we have. You build, plus when you do a TIF, By getting all the infrastructure built, you allow them to go up. If a developer had to spend the money to build what they had, the infrastructure, you would get asphalt parking lots instead of parking garages and development next to it. I prefer a parking garage over a huge asphalt parking lot. A perfect example of what TIF has given us, Sophie Square, where the new Monterey restaurant, great restaurant, by the way, if you haven't been there, right along the Monon. That building, that little footprint pays the same property tax as IKEA and Top Golf in Fishers. What would you rather have? TIF gets us deals like that. And yes, we have created a market and developers want to be here, but TIF has gotten us where we are and made that type of deal happen.
State of California, in case you haven't heard, isn't a bastion of fiscal responsibility or any of that type of stuff, right? Well, for a while, they had TIFs outlawed. I heard that that was recently reversed where they now allow TIFs, but they were outlawed. And the reason for that is that tool wasn't invented for a place like Carmel. That place was invented for rural areas and blighted areas that are in need of development. That's what that was there. So if you got a blighted area, they can't get a business there, they gave them this tool to try to get businesses there for economically depressed areas or areas that couldn't get development. I've heard some of these ordinances when a TIF district is being approved, and they'll read it and they'll say, because this area is blighted, you're talking about an area off of Carmel Drive. For some reason, that doesn't seem like a very blighted area to me. Now, I'm not going to argue that none of this TIF has been beneficial, but not all of it has, and not all of them pay back what they were intended to pay back. And there's sometimes where there's property taxes that had to back them up, or TIFs from other areas have to be moved to pay another TIF that's not profitable. So it wasn't intended for an area like Carmel. It's been used to entice certain types of development. I think going forward, we're now on the map, and we could get development in the type of development that I discussed earlier, without using TIF bonds or any type of taxpayer dollars to do it.
So TIF is one tool in our toolkit. So is tax abatements, which I personally don't like at all. So is creating an incredibly desirable community where people want to move to, with incredibly talented workforce that people want to tap into should they bring their businesses here. So I like having TIF as a tool in the toolkit, but it shouldn't have to be the only tool we use. So again, this is something where I would look at a case-by-case basis, hopefully not having to use that tool, right? But using our incredible, again, workforce, incredible community that's vibrant with amazing amenities as the biggest amenity the biggest draw for businesses to want to come here.
Thank you so much. We really want to thank you for joining us today. We've had some excellent questions. We've had some excellent ideas come up. So what we would like to do to finish up today is if each of you could take 2 minutes and think about the questions that have come up today and the thoughts that are on our members' minds, and just give a summation about your candidacy and what you would stand for.
I want to echo saying thank you for having us here. It's been a tremendous honor to be up here with these gentlemen and also present to you today. And I know I'm looking forward to hearing from many of you afterwards as well, with any feedback that you have for us. In summary, I want to be a mayor that serves you. I want to have an open door policy, one that doesn't just communicate by pushing out information, but asks you what you want in your community moving forward. I want to hire, motivate, and put to work the best people in this community to serve you on a daily basis. Our community employees are incredibly talented and motivated now, but that's not without work. That starts with developing values, aligning them to how we want the community served, and then holding them accountable. And I mentioned earlier, priority number 1, crime prevention. Priority number 2, engaging you so we make sure we have an incredible quality of life moving forward. So thank you again for the opportunity. If there's anyone that wants any further conversation, please let me know. I do have additional materials on the table back there, but also hit my website, suefincom.com. And again, under priorities are listed the fiscal excellence plan, as well as a public safety plan for you to look at. So we also have several meet and greets coming up. If you want to hear more, want to engage more, please let me know. None of them have a dollar amount to attend. They're just open meet and greets around the community. I think we've got about 8 or 10 more until the election. So thank you very much for your time today.
thank you all for being here and thank you for being engaged. One of the biggest things, I think all my opponents will agree with this, we just don't have enough engagement, especially in local politics. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate my opponents. I appreciate the campaign that we've had so far. I think we're all just out here trying to get our ideas out and just tell everybody how we're different. My administration, I want to start listening to people, and that involves a people-oriented vision that talks about the type of development we have, being more scrupulous with your tax dollars. That's one thing. Public safety, increasing patrols so we can deter crime from other areas. Those are going to be three very big tenets for me. Neighborhoods, preserving neighborhoods, ordinances in place that they're doing in places like Zionsville that say if you go and knock down a home in a neighborhood, you've got to make sure that that house has the character of about 4 houses around it, so you're not encroaching on neighbors in that way either. So we really need to start preserving our neighborhoods, have economic diversity across our community. We need to have housing for all stages of life, for when people get out of school, when people are raising a family, and when people retire. Those will be my core focuses, and I'll be very aggressive with that as your next mayor. Thank you.
Communication, communication, communication. The more you know, the more buy-in I'm going to have. We need leadership. We've had one mayor for 28 years. We need somebody to step into that role that's ready to be in that role. With my experience between 16 years on council and 12 years on planning commission, I got my hands in the dirt. I really know what's going on in this community. Safety, number one thing. We spend more money on police and fire than anything else we do. This is a world-class city. If we don't put the right leadership in place, we could lose that. I do not intend to let that happen. We're going to have 6 new faces on our city council. I've put together a group of candidates that I have been interviewing and talking to for the last 2 years. And it is going to be extremely important to get the right mayor for leadership and the right people on the city council for Carmel to continue to be the world-class city that we are. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for spending time with us. As mayor, I will always be focused on you, the people of Carmel. I want to ensure that Carmel remains a safe place, a place that's inclusive, that anyone, regardless of what stage of life they're in, that they will continue to be in love with this city as well. I also want to focus on protecting our crown jewel, which is our school district. Make sure that our teachers are supported and our superintendent has the tools that they need to continue to make our school district rank in the top 1% in the state and top 1% in the country. I will continue my goal will be, and I will be fully committed to have an impact on our communication by having fireside chats where I will share with you the plan for the city, the strategies we're going to take, and the goals, and look forward to your feedback. I'm Miles Nelson. I'm running for mayor. I look for your support.
Thank you. I want to say thanks to all 4 of these fine candidates. It takes a lot of something to run for public office. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of commitment, and a dedication to public service. And I can tell you, I wouldn't want to be in any of your positions at this point. But you've done a wonderful job. I also want to thank everyone who's here for coming and showing these 4 candidates that seniors and other members of this community really do care and that we want to have a voice in the future of this community. So again, our thanks on behalf of Prime Life and our board of directors and our staff and all of our members. We thank all of you for being here today. This was an unknown journey that we began last month with the city council. I'm glad it's over now, but we'll try it again in maybe 4 years, something like that. So again, thank you very much, all of you.